Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're diving into what is, for a lot of people, the most intimidating part of a research project. Chapter 3, the methodology. But seriously, don't worry. I want you to think of this as your personal roadmap. We're going to demystify the whole thing so you can write that chapter with total confidence. So let's get started. Okay, first things first, let's ask the big question. What is the real purpose of your methodology chapter? Is it just a checklist of things you did? A boring list of procedures? Absolutely not. It is the very heart of your study. This is where you make your case, your argument for why your research should be trusted. It's your chance to show the reader not just what you did, but the why behind every single decision.
So here's the game plan for today. We're going to start with the ultimate goal of Chapter 3. Then we'll talk about laying a solid foundation for your work. After that, we'll get into choosing the right research path for you. Then a really important one, understanding your role in all of this. And finally, we'll cover the nuts and bolts of your action plan.
Right, Section 1, the goal. Look, at its core, your methodology chapter is all about one thing, building an argument for trustworthiness. You're telling a story about your research journey. You have to answer 3 simple but totally crucial questions. What decisions did I make? Why did I make those specific decisions? And how, exactly, did I carry them out? Now, to really get a handle on this, it helps to see the contrast, right? With quantitative research, you're usually starting with a theory, and you're using numbers to test if it holds up. But in the qualitative world, well, we're kind of flipping the script. We're gathering words and stories and experiences to build a theory from the ground up. And that fundamental difference is exactly why our methodology has to be so transparent and so well argued. Okay, on to our second stop, laying that foundation. You know, you can't plan a road trip until you know your destination. This section is all about getting crystal clear on where you're headed. And it all starts with the research problem. That's the why. It's that gap you spotted in all the existing research. From that problem, you create your purpose statement. That's the what, your specific goal. Think of it like a funnel. You start wide with the problem, you narrow it down to your specific purpose, and then you zoom all the way into the exact questions you're going to ask. And here is a non-negotiable rule of the road for qualitative research. Your questions have to be open-ended. I'm talking how or what. You can't ask simple yes or no questions because you're not there to confirm something you already think you know. Nope, you are an explorer on a mission to uncover rich stories and deep experiences. All right, foundation is set. Time for part 3, choosing your path. If your research question is the destination, then your research design is the vehicle that's going to get you there. And, you know, you wouldn't take a Ferrari off-roading, right? You've got to pick the right vehicle for the journey you're on. Here are 5 of the most popular vehicles in the qualitative garage, so to speak. Are you trying to capture and retell someone's life story? Narrative's your ride. Do you want to understand what a shared experience is truly like for a group of people? That's phenomenology. Each of these designs is tailor-made for a specific kind of question. Okay, let's go a little deeper now. This is the really cool part. Behind every single research design, there's a philosophical paradigm. Now, I know that sounds super academic and complicated, but just think of it as your research GPS. It's the belief system about the world that guides every turn you make. So let's start with ontology. It's a big word for a simple idea. How do you see reality? In qualitative research, we don't believe there's one single objective truth out there. Instead, we believe there are multiple realities. You could have 10 people witness the exact same event, and they could walk away with 10 totally different, totally valid subjective truths. And that's okay. Okay, so if reality is subjective, how do we get to know anything about it? Well, that brings us to epistemology, or how we know what we know. See, we don't think knowledge is just a thing you can dig out of someone's head, like a miner digging for gold. We believe it's co-created. It's built together in the interaction between you and the participant. And that leads to this really important idea, axiology, or the role of values. In some research, the goal is to be totally neutral, to eliminate all bias. But not here. We lean in. We acknowledge that our values and our participants' values are a huge part of the story. They aren't contamination, they're context. And acknowledging them is a strength. And that idea flows perfectly into our 4th section. In so many other kinds of research, you try to take the researcher out of the equation as much as possible. But in qualitative work, no way, you can't. In fact, you are the primary instrument for collecting data. This quote from Dr. Philip Adu just says it all, doesn't it? You always have to see yourself as an instrument. Your personal history, your beliefs, your perspective, all of it shapes the questions you ask and how you hear the answers. You're not just a fly on the wall, you're part of the process. So, what does this mean for your writing? It means you have to be transparent. You need a positionality section where you tell the reader, here's how I got interested in this, here are my experiences that might be relevant, and yeah, here are some of my own biases. This isn't a confession, it's a critical part of the methodology that helps your reader trust your work.
All right, we've made it to our final stop, the action plan. We know our destination, we've picked our vehicle, we've acknowledged our role as the driver. Now it's time for the turn-by-turn directions, the nuts and bolts of how you actually did the research.
First up, how did you find your people? The goal here isn't to get a huge, random sample. It's to find the right people, the ones who have the rich information you need. Maybe you used purposive sampling to find participants who fit a very specific profile, or snowball sampling, where one person leads you to another. Now, your procedure section needs to be so detailed, so step-by-step, that another researcher could practically replicate your moves. How'd you get consent? What questions did you ask? How did you record everything? Think of it like you're leaving a perfect breadcrumb trail for anyone who follows.
And finally, how do you prove your study is legit? In our world, we talk about trustworthiness. It breaks down into a few key ideas. Credibility? Are your findings believable? Transferability? Could these insights matter in other situations? And dependability. Is your process clear and consistent? You demonstrate all of this through detailed descriptions and a logical, transparent process. So, we've reached the end of our roadmap, and I want to leave you with a final thought. After all this, do you still see Chapter 3 as just some daunting hurdle you have to get over, or do you see it as the chapter where you, the researcher, get to define the very heart and soul of your study? I think you know the answer. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer.